Yo guys, it is your boy Niran here, and welcome to the FNG transfer roundup. The transfer window has slammed shut in the UK. All 20 Premier League clubs now have to come to terms with what they've done within the last few months. Newcastle, I'm looking at you. And so today I'm going to be ranking all 20 Premier League clubs based on how I think they've conducted themselves in the transfer window. Who has had the best based on the players they brought in, maybe the players they've been able to hold on to. Now we've got 5 different categories I can rank these teams in. At the top, we've got Here We Go. Fabrizio Romano was working tirelessly on your transfer window and climaxed at least 4 times at exclusives he was able to get from you. Quality window, it wasn't the perfect one, but you can still be happy with where you were. Below that, in the middle, we've got Could Be Better. We've got A Bit Clapped 4th, and then Disaster plus Don't Care plus Ratio G at the bottom. Now we're going about this in alphabetical order, which means we're starting with Arsenal. Dear mother of God. To be fair, they've sold Willian now, so I guess, listen, they're bad. I feel like everybody's laughing at Arsenal because A, I mean, we love to do that. B, like, they've started the season off very badly and they've spent a lot of money. I mean, they've spent the most out of any team in the top 5 leagues. Like, that's mental. Especially when you compare the squad they have now to the one they have last season. The only upgrade on the actual starting 11, you would argue, is Ben White. But I actually secretly think they've gone about their business, like, okay. Lokonga is a baller, and I don't think people expected him to be. I think Nuno Tavares could be a relatively decent signing. 30 million for Odegaard is not an awful deal. Then you get to Ben White, who was 50 mil. And Ramsdale, who was 35. I feel like the worst thing about Arsenal's window is A, they've let go of quite a few players that would have been useful, like Saliba potentially, Guendouzi, Joe Willock. I mean, the first two hate Mikel Arteta, but I would as well if my dressing room was being run like Uganda. But I can't help but feel they've strengthened in areas that they didn't even, like, need to. A lot of the other players they brought in are depth players or ones for the future. Like, you need things for the here and now, lads. They've not done what they needed to do for me at all, but they have at least made some astute signings they could make some profit on. So I will put them in the middle tier because it definitely could be better. And it's definitely closer to the 4th tier. On to Villa next. Everybody's been gassing these lot up, but I do think they've had pretty much the best window they could have had, having sold Jack Grealish. But I am still concerned about their lack of creativity without Jack Grealish in the side. That being said, Leon Bailey's a brilliant winger. Emi Buendia will provide some of that when he's actually fit. Juan Zabi and Ashley Young are great depth, and obviously Danny Ings has been putting in goals already. If they'd have signed James Ward-Prowse, I probably would have put them in the top tier as well. But really and truly, I think they've had an absolutely quality window. Then we got Brentford, who have done a decent amount. I like Frank Onyeka, and I like Christopher Ayer, who's come in from Celtic. Onyeka had a very solid start, played well against Arsenal. He's got COVID now, so wishing him the best. I think they've been all right-ish. I think they probably would have liked to add a little bit more. I think they might need a little bit more creativity. But on top of that, keeping Ivan Toney was vital as well. If he'd have ended up going somewhere else, they're going straight back down. So I feel like it's a bit of a crime putting them in the same one as Arsenal. But equally, we're looking at Arsenal because the whole club is a mess. The actual transfers they made were okay. It's everything else that's the problem. Brighton and Hove Albion, just sign a striker. Please, it's all I need from you. Stop with the XG merchanting stuff. If you had a good striker, you wouldn't be like 3rd on XG, but 16th in the league. That's all you had to do. I'm putting them in disaster. I'm kidding. I'm not actually. If I see one more season with Neil Maupay up front. They've signed Mark Cucurella, who's like a right back slash wing back slash can just play anywhere down the right hand side. That's a pretty decent signing. I like that. Wep, who I think, the centre mid, that's pretty decent. Ben White's obviously gone, but they've kind of just replaced him with Duffy, who's come back from his loan. Would have liked them to have reinvested that £50 million a little bit more on a striker. But yeah, overall, it's relatively harmless. I'm gonna put it in could be better. I don't see them improving a huge amount based on the players they brought in. Now, Burnley are next. I think Burnley have had a really underrated window, and I would not have said this until deadline day. Nathan Collins is a good young centre-back, and then they've obviously got in Connor Roberts, who was great at the Euros for Wales from Swansea, like one of the better players in the Championship last season. And Maxwell Cornet's like a proper coup from Lyon. Like, he was playing against City in the Champions League like 2 seasons ago. So I think they've done really well. They've properly bolstered the right-hand side. They brought in more defensive options. They got rid of Ben Gibson, who they didn't really need. Especially compared to what Burnley usually do in a window, I'm going to put them in quality window. Like, they've kept hold of players that are crucial to them, and they've genuinely strengthened quite a lot. Like, Connor Roberts will fly under the radar, but that's a really good signing. And he's Welsh. Like, even that's not Brexit enough for Burnley usually. They're really going out of their comfort zone here. On to Chelsea, who on the face of it haven't done a huge amount and have got rid of a lot of players. But the one thing that they were lacking last season was goals, all right? They scored the least out of anybody, I believe, in the top 5. They signed Romelu Lukaku, who is in the form of his life, is incredible, basically won into Serie A, and then was sick at the Euros. So I think they've done pretty well overall. Like, they're straight in, here we go. Like, honestly, like, I'm basing half of this on whether they're better than they were last year, but also another half of it on have they done what they needed to do to then take it to the next level. For me, all Chelsea needed to do was find a proven goal scorer. Anything else is irrelevant. Like, Saul, to be fair, is also a brilliant signing on loan. They're spending about 5 million euros on having him there. But Lukaku works well in the system, and they managed to move on some players that Tuchel felt he didn't need. Like, I don't personally agree with selling Tammy Abraham, but equally, he's not going to play third fiddle behind Werner and Lukaku. I think they could have got use out of Tomori, but they've got Trevor Chalobah now. They got rid of Guehi for 20+ million, Zuma for 20+ million, Zappacosta. So for me, yep, here we go. Fabrizio, get it ready, sunshine.
I'm gonna tweet now. Here we go.
On to Crystal Palace, the hipsters transfer window, if you will. I agree with the hipsters in this sense, all right? Get me to Shoreditch as well. I'm excited for Michael Elise. I'm excited for Mark Guehi in the Premier League after doing very well for Swansea last season. Joachim Anderson was great for Fulham last year. Gallagher's already proven to be pretty good after getting that brace on the weekend, but they kind of still needed goals. Bring in Odsonne Edouard from Celtic. I mean, like, they've done really, really well. They brought in exciting young prospects. They've stabilized the defense that was losing a lot of players on frees at the end of the season. So it's gone well. Like, I have to put them in quality window. The only thing that concerns me about Palace is Patrick Vieira and whether he can get those signings to work. On to Everton. Rafa Benitez is Everton now. And these lot have probably had the weirdest window of anybody. Like, the signings they've made. Damari Gray, who never made it really at Leicester. Andros Townsend, who's past his prime and got released by Crystal Palace. Solomon Rondon, who was pretty good in the Premier League for the likes of Newcastle and West Brom, but I wouldn't expect to be brought in. I guess it's the Benitez connection. I'm still not a massive fan of it because I don't think they've made themselves better from last season. Although it is worth noting, Damari Gray got nominated for Player of the Month in his first month back in the league, so that's pretty decent. I'm actually going to put them in a bit clapped. I think I'm going to get proven wrong on that because I think Damari Gray will end up working well in the system. Townsend probably will as well. The good thing, though, for Everton is they've got rid of a bit of dead wood off the wage bill, like your Besic's and Bolasis and stuff, but will they do better this season based off the signings they've made alone rather than just the manager? Probably not. Leeds next, whose probably one of the main signings they made is just getting Jack Harrison on a permanent for pretty cheap as well. Junior Firpo, the left back from Barca, comes in. I think that'll be a pretty good signing. Dan James will work well for them. 25 million seems a bit expensive. They didn't really need to do a huge amount for this season, but I would have liked to see them bring in a centre-back. When I look at Leeds sometimes, I'm like, Calvin Phillips has to do too much. And speaking of Phillips as well, like, they've managed to keep hold of him and other players that, Rafinha especially, actually, who was linked with a move away, they're still at the club. So that in itself is solid for Leeds too. I'm going to put them in could be better. On to Leicester now. We've made a number of exciting signings. Patson Daka coming in from Salzburg. Soumare from Lille. We've got Ademola Lookman on loan. Vestergaard from Southampton to replace Fofana. Bertrand as well for free as a backup left back. I think is a great move. And I think that's the thing with what Leicester have done. For me, what they needed to do, provide some depth in this squad to stop them from just bottling the end of the season because everyone's run out of steam. So for me, it's a quality window. They've done exactly what they needed to do in order to hopefully maintain where they are. They probably needed one first-team quality player that was really going to raise their level for me to put them where Chelsea are. Now, though, to Liverpool. Not going to lie to you, lads, this isn't going to be a good one. So the only thing, obviously, that Liverpool have done in this window is bring in Ibrahima Konate from Leipzig. Now, Ibrahima Konate is a great centre-back with a great future, and we needed a selection of 4 senior centre-backs after what happened last season, but we've done nothing else. We've let Gini Wijnaldum go and haven't replaced him. Naby Keita is not the guy for that. You can't rely on him anyway because of his injury record. We've let Xherdan Shaqiri go, who was one of our very few depth wingers. I mean, we now have Salah, Mane, and Jota. Harvey Elliott is there, and I'm excited for his first team football, but when you then factor in the fact that we'll be losing Keita, Mane, and Salah all to the African Cup of Nations, we are finished. We have zero depth going forward, and I know it's hard to bring in players there because they already know they're probably going to be a backup before they've even arrived, but there has to be a winger out there who fits the system, is worth less than £30 million, and doesn't mind being a backup. Xhaka. The lack of ambition and progression, it's been very disappointing. The only shining light being Konate and the fact that we've got Jordan Henderson signed to a new contract. I think that is a major positive too. I'm gonna put them in the bottom tier. I know that's probably harsh, but we need more. We're just relying on Van Dijk coming back and being better. And now on to Man City, who, to be honest, similarly frustrate me. It might seem good with the sugar coating of a £100 million transfer for Jack Grealish, but when you consider the fact that he's coming into an area of the pitch that's needed the least work out of anywhere in Man City's squad, all it's done is make Bernardo Silva want to leave, who was already very capable anyway. This is a disaster as well. Like, you've chased Harry Kane for the whole transfer window, let Daniel Levy slap you in the face, then when you realised you weren't getting him, you went after Ronaldo, who slapped you in the face and went to United instead. It's a howler. You're finished. You're not finished. That is a lie. You're still a very, very competent football club. And you got new deals for Diaz and Edison. If I'm going to put Liverpool in disaster, I think I simply have to put City in there as well. Now, over on the other side of Manchester, we got the Red Devils. Now, I'm so jealous of United, man. What a window these lot have had. Obviously, bringing in Jadon Sancho at the start of the window. Rafael Varane coming in at centre-back is a surefire upgrade. You can already see him starting to, trying to educate the likes of Wan-Bissaka and stuff and make them better. I think he'll enhance the whole defense. Then there's the small matter of Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's all right, I guess. If I'm gonna be honest, I don't think United really wanted to sign Ronaldo. I think they just saw the opportunity, saw that City wanted to sign him, and were like, no. Ron, remember, bro, we had good times back in the day. They've even got Tom Heaton back. He's homegrown at club. This is a genius window. Ronaldo, for me, is the cherry on top of a cake, but it's a cake that doesn't have any icing on, so the cherry kind of falls off the cake. The icing would have been a DM. But I think off the basis of signing Sancho, Varane, and Ronaldo in the same window, like commercially as well, having Ronaldo back at United, the amount of money they're going to be earning from having him back in a United shirt with the number 7 on is crazy. I'm putting them in here we go. On to Newcastle. We don't even need to talk about it. Let's talk about Joe Willock first, obviously, okay? So he's coming on a permanent now. He had a great impact last season. Do I think he'll have that same impact as a permanent signing? Not really, but he will improve that midfield, right? You know a window has been bad when the club has to put out a statement clarifying why it's been terrible. They need reinforcements at centre-back, at full-back, another midfielder arguably on top of Willock. I don't want to see John Joe Shelby or the other Don, the Irish guy, anywhere near the Premier League anymore. They're Championship at best. They loaned out Matty Longstaff. What are you doing? The only saving grace, if this was purely meme-based, I would have put them top though, because they signed Santiago Munoz. That was good. I like that. Good PR. On to Norwich, newly promoted, reigning champions of the Championship. And these lot have been very, very active. Signed a couple of Greek dons. They got Zolis, who's a winger. Can't remember the fullback's name, not gonna lie. But he had a pretty solid debut when I watched him against Liverpool. Zolis is a pretty highly rated player. I'm not gonna lie. Not watched the Greek league that much. I like Rashica as well, but he strikes me as a very inconsistent footballer. So they've also got in Josh Sargent, who I think could be a solid striker, but again, a lot of pressure on a young kid. Billy Gilmore is used to the Premier League. I think that's a great loan signing. And also Ozan Kabak as well at centre-back, I think is pretty good. For me, I think they've actually done pretty well. Really and truly, Josh Sargent isn't quite good enough to get the amount of goals that they need. I look at some of the other strikers at teams down there. Callum Wilson at Newcastle. Ivan Toney at Brentford. The one drawback for me with Norwich is that they've lost Emi Buendia. And I can't look past that. Otherwise, I'd probably put them in quality window. So I think I'm going to put them in the middle tier. On to Southampton, who, I'll be honest with you, I had a change of heart about these lot. I made the Premier League predictions video and suggested that Southampton might go down. It looked as if at the time they were going to lose James Ward-Prowse. They've managed to keep James Ward-Prowse and get him like tied down to a deal. Livramento, who I knew nothing about beforehand, looks a quality little player. Adam Armstrong's been involved in 3 goals. I still don't think he's going to be as good as Danny Ings just yet, but he still looks competent for sure. So I think actually overall they've done pretty well. Obviously they had to sell Ings and Vestergaard because otherwise they were going to go for free next season. I was just concerned they hadn't really replaced them, especially Vestergaard. I'm going to probably put them in could be better. That might still be harsh. Southampton fans might still hate me on that one. But I think if they brought in a quality centre-back. I'd probably put them in quality window. On to the final four, and we start with Tottenham, who I think under the radar have actually had a great window, to be honest with you. It's been a bit of a one for the future one with them, like Romero coming in from Atalanta, Ryan Hill has arrived, Emerson Royal as well from Barca. They brought in some genuinely good young players. But the most important thing for me, whether he's happy or not, is they've kept hold of Harry Kane. Because for me, if they lose Harry Kane, they're finishing 9th in the league. Like, I know they started the season against City without Kane very well, but for the longevity of the season, if you get one injury to Heung-min Son, there's nobody in that front three that's doing anything. They wouldn't have reinvested the money wisely, because that's not what Tottenham do. So it was the better option was to keep hold of him. So for me, again, quality window for Spurs. Watford, bit indifferent about them. Cucho Hernandez is a good forward. They didn't actually buy him. He's just returned back from a loan. I like Moussa Sissoko joining from Spurs, who we just talked about. That's a pretty good signing. They lost Will Hughes, and I still don't think they've got a top-tier source of goals. I'm going to say could be better, but right towards the end. West Ham next, the penultimate team. Another team that I think until deadline day had been all right, but then kind of stepped it up again. Goalkeeping competition is good with Fabianski aging a little bit. Areola's obviously coming on loan. They got Kral as depth, and also Nikola Vlasic as well in the wing department. Didn't sign Lingard, which might frustrate Hammers fans, but the amount of money United were asking for probably wasn't worthwhile, and they've just got Vlasic instead anyway. But for me, the crucial one, the really good one for me is Kurt Zouma. If there was one area of the pitch that I looked at West Ham and I was like, on paper, like maybe performance-wise they were doing better, but on paper, you lot look very average, is at centre-back. So Kurt Zouma coming in, he's a good defender. If you were a team fighting for like 6th in the league, Kurt Zouma's a quality bring-in. So yeah, for me, West Ham, I've said quality quite a few times there. They're going in quality window. And then finally, last and to be honest, a contender for least, we've got Wolverhampton Wanderers, who I'm sure you'll ask a lot of Wolves fans and they'll say they were very, very disappointed with the window because they've done nothing. Obviously, Rui Patricio left and he's been replaced by Jose Sarr, who's looked all right in goal. Trincao and Hwang have come in on loan from Barca and Leipzig respectively. I've watched Hwang a few times in the Bundesliga and against Liverpool Champions League, and he looked all right, to be honest with you. So maybe for me, the crucial thing is they've kept a lot of the players that are important to them. Ruben Neves was linked with a move to United and hasn't gone there. I'm not going to put them in disaster for that reason. They've also brought in more players than Liverpool and City have, so I'm going to put them in a bit clapped, but they are very much on the borderline. And that brings us to the end. That is the tier list that we have created. Very interesting bookmarking of the top 4 clubs there. Chelsea and United at the top, Liverpool and City at the bottom. But let me know what you think about this tier list down in the comment section below. I feel like I've done all right with this one. I feel like I knew what I was talking about for this one, but if you don't think I was, then let me know down there. Which team do you think has had the best transfer window of anyone in the Premier League? If you enjoyed the video though, feel free to slap a like on this one, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.